Yeah.
Moving back then to the treasures of Juniper Ridge. We skipped a section on that earlier in the course, and it's a section dealing with signs, and I put it off so that we can coordinate it with the signs that we just looked at in Yeshe-Lama. This gives a little bit more detail, and it comes from Padmasambhava's great single cut of complete liberation revealed by Rinchen Lingpa. So this is on page 129 in the Juniper Ridge text. And so it talks about different kinds of signs. There are signs that are indefinite and signs that are definite. Indefinite signs are known as basic signs due to one's previous connection. And it says here that those are unreliable, so they are not included in the lists that are described in this text. The definite signs are due to practicing, and so there are two types of those, temporary and unchanging. And the temporary signs can appear in actuality or moods. So there are two branches of that as well. And then in here it goes on to talk a little bit about the first kind, which would be the actual kind. When doing the preliminaries, so this would refer to Kordi Rushan. So this is broken down by parts of the practice. And separation practices, and Kordi Rushan was separation into samsara and nirvana. And your body feels at the brink of collapse like walls of a house in shambles. Your voice feels worn out like when exhausted, or you convulse like someone possessed. These indicate that you have separated samsara and nirvana. Now, when we talked about this earlier, there were some things, some signs that were somewhat similar to this. You just feel completely exhausted and so forth from having done these practices, certain ones of those practices. And then the moods section, so that was the actual section, and then there's the moods section. And the moods are disenchantment with a samsaric body, speech, and mind. So you get disenchanted with that. You really want to go beyond that. They indicate having purified obscurations of the three realms and separated from samsara. Their absence indicates not having gained experience, so repeat the practice. So if you don't get those signs, do it again. So then we go back to actual signs, and again here it presents these in a slightly different way here, but it's talking about the preliminaries and the unchanging category now. So we had the temporary category, and now we have the unchanging category. And the actual signs are fatigue of the body, speech, and mind, so that your body feels blissful. So this is a different kind of fatigue. Your voice wants to speak out, and your mind experiences everything as space. You feel now nothing exists, as well as compassion for beings who fail to realize the same as you, and enthusiasm for the Dharma will also arise. In the moods section of the unchanging part, you forget that you have a body. You don't notice your breathing, and mentally you don't want to part from that state of non-thought, thinking, this is it. These are the signs of having taken hold of the nirvanic type of mental stability. Their absence indicates not being well trained, so exert yourself and continue. Okay? Then we move on here and we go through the different visions. So this first one is the first vision. Then it says all these, there's an extra line in here. All these are only temporary signs. They change and are not reliable. All the ones I just mentioned. So now it refers to what it calls the main practice here. But this is a reference to the first vision. And so the signs of having established Rigpa in actuality through the view, the actual signs are feeling disenchantment with the body, speech, and mind in a way that is visible both to you and others. So we had something similar before, but now it goes to a slightly different level. So it's not just you, other people notice it as well. And having no interest in the activities of this life. And that's also similar to what was in the other one. Your voice is like that of a mute. Mentally, you are tired of samsaric affairs. You feel profound devotion for your guru, and compassion for all beings wells up so that tears flow. There is trust in the consequence of actions, and you exert yourself in giving up misdeeds and practicing virtue. So this isn't dramatically different than what we saw in the other one. Then we have the moods. Those were the actual signs. Now the moods. The mood signs include lightness of body, at times even forgetting that you have a body, not noticing your breath's movement, and mentally feeling that everything is insubstantial and evanescent. These are all these signs change and don't last. So again, two categories of things, very similar to what we saw before, but they don't last. So now we go on, still looking at Vision 1, but now these are the unchanging categories. The signs of lasting value are the following. And so first we have the actual. Within the expansive space of the view, when awareness is utterly laid bare, without fluctuations, and doesn't project experience as being other, that is a sign of having anchored awareness within Dharmata. So that's the actual. Then we have the mood signs. Those are, no matter where your attention moves, you understand and realize that it is your own mind. You see that thoughts are projected and return as self-display, and you understand that they are completely insubstantial like space. So these are the signs of having established through the view that appearances are mind. So they have this insubstantial quality to them and so forth. You don't recognize, there's no difference between self and other, or subject-object, and so forth. So then we move on, and it talks then about the dreams. To recognize this even while dreaming is the sign of having reached the fullest degree of steadiness. That's a reference to the first vision. If you sustain this, in 7 years you will awaken to the stage of Nirmanakaya with the vanishing of your material body. If you do not recognize while dreaming, you will awaken at death. Therefore, to persevere in the practice is the conduct of the foremost type of person. Okay? So dream examples also that we can recognize and help us understand where we are. The second vision now. Look at that. And these first ones are, again, the temporary ones. So the signs of experiencing the state of realization in actuality, in your body, speech, and mind, the actual signs are that your body is light and energetic, your voice is clear and able to express teachings that you have never even heard, and at times your mind has some degree of clairvoyance. You see everything lucidly as rainbows, sometimes full of bodily forms and circles, sometimes being void and without reference points. So remember, these are some of the signs that we talked about, things that actually appear in the visions. And then we go, this doesn't make a clear distinction where it's changing to mood, but I'm assuming this is where it happens. As devotion to your guru grows even deeper and your concern for karmic consequences becomes more relaxed, you feel that your body emits light. At times your body is absent. Your voice speaks unintentionally like an echo. So it's almost like you're not speaking, but it is your voice. And your mind is clear and blissful and does not project anything. Now and then it turns void and forms no thoughts. These occurrences change and cannot be relied upon. Okay, so don't put too much faith in these. Whether you see them or don't see them doesn't necessarily mean it's not real definitive, if you will. Okay, so then again, moving on with the realization, the second vision. The unchanging signs are the following. There is no longer any experience in which you cling to a solid reality. Instead, everything is sheer luminous display. So it begins to look less and less solid to us. Everything appears, but there is no solid reference point or clinging. To realize this is the sign of having established through the experience of training that mind itself is empty. And then it talks about the dream stage. So here it doesn't have a full development of each of these different stages. To experience this while dreaming is to have reached the fullest degree of steadiness. If you sustain this, in 3 years the material body will vanish and you will awaken to the state of Sambhogakaya's intangible wisdom body. Okay, so the Sambhogakaya body in 3 years. So the time frame shortened from 7 years now down to 3 years if you've accomplished this level. And then it moves on to the third vision. Next comes the sign that this emptiness is spontaneously and effortlessly liberated in itself. So these are the temporary signs. Regarding body, speech, and mind in actuality, so there's the actuality category of the temporary. The signs in actuality that there is no attachment to a body, such as being unafraid of water. Moreover, previously unseen marks of excellence can be witnessed by both you and others. Your voice can express beneficial Dharma teachings by simply directing your will toward others. In your mind, untainted clairvoyance arises. And then for the moods section, the signs as meditation moods are that you neither remember nor even think of clinging to your body, speech, and mind. That whatever you experience is spacious and not taken as real. And that you feel as if you can move freely through rock, mountains, and the like. Now it says you feel as if you could. It doesn't say that you actually can. Okay, and then the unchanging category here. The unchanging signs are the following. No matter what you experience, there is neither any conceptual focus nor any attempt to accept or reject. So we transcend doing that. Rather, it is liberated without being assumed to be real, so that whether day or night, and without needing to remember it, appearance and emptiness are naturally liberated into non-duality. Okay? Appearance and emptiness naturally liberated into non-duality. That is the sign of having established self-liberation through spontaneous conduct. So those are the unchanging ones. And then it gives a little on the dream in this section. When delusion of dreaming ends, you have reached the fullest degree of steadiness. If you sustain this in 1 year, the material body will vanish and you will awaken to the state of Dharmakaya without remainder. Okay, no hair and nails. And then we have the fourth vision. Then the sign that this self-liberation is brought to consummation. The fruition of spontaneous presence appears only in others' perception. So now we no longer even see this. Whereas in your personal perception, all kinds of signs and indications of progress on the path have ceased. This state, known as the vision of the exhaustion in Dharmata, means that the moving force of appearances has ceased, while the still quality of emptiness is no longer. Thus, the non-dual nature of appearance and emptiness neither fluctuates nor changes in any way whatsoever. Instead, there is a naturally awake quality that transcends meeting and separation, an unfabricated presence, and an absence without any dismantling, which is an utterly naked state of aware emptiness, free of clinging. In others' perceptions, since any unobstructed knowledge, original wakefulness as an all-pervasive capacity, is also present, there is an effortless unfolding of form bodies, rupakayas, for the welfare of beings. Okay, so even though we've attained this ultimate state, we can still manifest and form bodies in order to help other beings. And then it concludes, those are then all of the statements here about the signs. And then accordingly, unless the signs of the path of self-existing wakefulness have reached their fullest extent, there is no understanding of when the time of spontaneously present fruition has arrived, and the practice becomes smug and lazy. This manual of signs and levels of progress is therefore of utmost importance. So we have to be a little bit careful about getting arrogant or lazy either direction in doing these practices. So looking at these from time to time, but not getting too involved in them, too wrapped up in them, and saying, well, where am I today? And tomorrow, where am I this day? And so forth. That only creates problems for you. But looking at these periodically and getting a general sense of them, and some of the signs are changeable, so they're not fixed and can be misleading, and the other ones that are more fixed are the ones to focus on a little bit more than that. But again, be a little bit careful about assuming that. And clearly it goes through that difference between our perception and then beginning of how others perceive us, which becomes more important until we get to the point where we're not concerned about how we perceive ourselves at all. And not really concerned about how others perceive us either at that point.